There we go. Right. Uh, okay, we're getting back into it now. I had to have a little sort of mental health break from Blockhead for a couple of days because I was getting so stressed out trying to fix it. It's a time that when I feel like I'm getting close um, to a release of another build, and I feel like, all right, I just have to do this thing and then this thing and this thing and then I'm done, and then a little bit of testing and then I'm done, and that's a bad sort of thought process to have because inevitably during that little bit of testing, uh, you realize everything's broken, and like everything being broken is fine, but not when you're in like the mental headspace of I just need to do a little bit and then I'm done. Like if you're anticipating being done soon, and then you're just like struggling and struggling and struggling to get to that point of being done. Anyway, I got really stressed out, and then decided to have a little break for a couple of days and do something else. Then I accidentally made a viral tweet, which ended up being way more stressful. So I'm happy to be back in the comfortable stress levels of Blockhead now. Um, uh, so I fixed like 10 things this morning to do with send and receive blocks and baking and the interactions between sends and receives and bakings and macros, and it's still not working correctly. Uh, and I should be printing out. Okay, every time something bakes, I'm printing out a line like this. Can I do like always on top? That's not a native Windows feature anymore, or ever was. Okay. So if I put this into a macro and put it here, then set an input track, and then it bakes over and over again. It's stuck in a loop, a baking loop, a dependency cycle, I guess. It's just baking the input over and over again. Why is it doing that? Let's have a look at what is happening. Right. 119. What is 119? Hold on. First of all. Oh, hold on. No, it's the macro. I thought it was the send. Okay, the macro block is baking over and over again. And it is this macro block. Oh yeah, there's only one macro block. Right. So macro block 119. So there's 3 things in the baking queue. 1, 2, 3 input. Is that the send then? That must be the send. But it's not that one. It's not this send. It's this send, the invisible one. Right. Okay, that makes sense. So now there's 2 things in the list. So there's the input of the send and the output of the macro. So we're looking at the input of the send here. It's got one dependency, which is the input of the macro, which makes sense. It's not, input of the macro is not baked. So it puts it on the baking list and puts these to the back of the queue. And then it goes to the next one. Okay. This is the input of the macro. Dependency is what? the output 84, I guess that is either the sampler or the receive. That is baked, whatever it was, and that was the only dependency. Oh, that's the sampler on the track above, the lane above. So that makes sense. So the sampler is baked. So the input for the macro is ready to bake. Okay. And then it does bake it. So that's what we're seeing. The input for the macro is it bakes like that. Okay. So now that the input for the macro is baked, the input of the send inside the macro should be able to be baked, and the output of the macro should be baked after that, I guess. So dependencies of the output of the macro. The output of the macro here. The dependency of the output of the macro is the input of the macro, which should be already baked. So that, yeah, that makes sense. So one of the dependencies of the output of the macro is the input of the macro, which should be baked at this point. So let's see what happens here. It says it's not baked. Okay, so this is the problem. It says the input is not baked, even though I know it is, because we just saw it bake. Wow. Look at that. No baked input. Okay. So it must be getting cleared at some point. Okie dokie. So I'm already at the right place. Okay. So continue. It's going to go through this loop again and bake it again. At some point, we're setting the baked input for the macro. Here it is. So this is after the baking is completed. Now the debugger is going to switch between these two files because there's two threads happening. So I guess I'll just... If I get rid of that breakpoint, will Visual Studio know I don't care about that thread anymore? No, it won't. How do I, like, ignore that thread now? I don't think I can. So notify baked data change, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. I mean, all I really care about is this. Not that. This clear baked data. Is that happening at some point? Yes, it is. For what node? 119? No, this is 123. Set baked input for 119. Okay. This is fascinating stuff. No. I mean, this is never happening. Surely not. This is the only place it gets cleared, right? It must be happening. Right, I'm really confused then. Node ID. 119? How did we... Well, I put a breakpoint there. I didn't see that happening ever. 124. 124. 123. There it is. 119. Okay, this is getting cleared. Right. As I suspected. Right. So wait, clear baked data. This must be happening somewhere. Trigger baking nodes. Right. It must be the baking graph is all fucked up. So clear baked data. Yeah. Node 1, 2, 3. 1, 1. Oh, right. Right. No, but I'm passing the node. Ah, but then it's clearing both of them because it's stupid, is it? No, this is 119 output. What happens when I do that? Clear baked data. Oh. This is wrong. Ah, okay. So every time so the macro has an input baking node and an output baking node because both the input and the output of the macro is baked. And every time I say the output node of the macro needs to be cleared, it's also clearing the input node. And the output node will be cleared when the input is successfully baked because the output depends on the input. Okay, so it's just clearing both of them regardless. Because what I should be doing here is node, if node type is bakery node type input, like that. And then here we go output. Yes. And then that'll fix everything. That'll fix all my problems, and that'll be the last the last thing I have to fix, and then I'm done. Just kidding. So let's see what happens now. Put send here, receive here. Okay, well somehow I made things even worse. I made things even worse. What? I don't understand how that change would cause this to happen. So it's baking over and over again, and it's the input for the send block, which is correct, but it's baking nothing. Which we can see with this line here. It's just baking silence. Well, it must be clearing these, right? I think it's baking it and then clearing it immediately. So set baked input, if I have a look at this. No, it's clearing it and then baking it, it seems like. Let's have a look at the data. Is there actual audio data in here? No, it's just silence. So it is actually baking silence, it seems like. Why on earth did that change that I made? Why would it cause this to happen? I don't know. Oh well, let's look at the audio rendering. Is this the right place? I guess I'll go into snapshots. Okay. What's this returning? silence. This is really interesting. What on earth is going on now? Let's have a look. You should be, yeah, it's rendering the sampler, okay. What does it get for that? Oh, the sampler doesn't even render. Oh, hold on. Did I fuck something up with the sampler then? Is this actually silent? Very interesting. That's not what that's supposed to sound like. Okay. Let's trigger a bake for the sampler. Wow, look at that. So it's nothing to do with the send. Something else happened. Oh no, it only happened once. It's fixed now. Ah, fuck. I hate problems like that. What happened there? Damn it. What happened there? I don't know what might have happened there. It baked like a little snippet at the beginning, and then it was just silence. It was almost as if it's really loud. Oh, there's a bug as well, look. What is that? Okay, found more bugs. I don't know. What happened? Shit. I can't reproduce that. Okay, let's forget about that for now. See if it happens again later. Let's go back to this issue. So if I put this into a macro, it'll bake silence because there's no input track, but then I set an input track. Okay. Let's do this. Didn't change. I had to nudge it before it rebaked. Oh, this has gone back to 100. There's another bug. There's just bugs on top of bugs on top of bugs here. Alright, let's solve this issue with the slider then. Send block footer. not storing this local variable. There we go. There's that issue. And then the other thing was that it didn't trigger a rebake when I modified it. So set send amount. Yeah, I can see that it's not. Okay. Set send amount. What I want to trigger is trigger baking node dependence. Node bit here. Oops. Core ID node type input. I think that's right. Maybe. Send, receive. Still didn't do it. I have to nudge it manually. So let's think about that. The dependent of the input Hold on. I think I have a function here which is not going to be written correctly, where it tries to find get audio source node. Get audio source node. That's not going to be right, is it? Get dependence for audio and sync. No, so send input dependence. Okay, this is wrong. Right, I changed things recently this morning so that previously the way I sort of wired up the baking dependency graph was a send block would have both an input and an output node, and the output would be dependent on the input within the same block. But then I realised that's stupid. Or it's the way I always did things, and it was always a bit confusing. Anyway, I sort of half fixed it this morning, but then I can see I didn't finish because like this should be like when explicitly muted. Right, so it doesn't always act as a source. Ah, but it needs to trigger the receive. Okay, yeah. Insert, receive, output, yeah. Okay, so I can delete that. And then out is, send input dependent expired output. This is the old thing that I was doing. That's wrong. Let me do this. Let me do this. Then we delete that, and then we delete that and that. So now the baking graph for send blocks is much simpler, and I think basically does exactly what it was doing before, but in a much simpler way. Let's just see where it breaks. It's going to break in some way, yeah, but I don't know where yet. So, send. Okay, so far so good. Receive. This works fine. That works. Then we create a macro. Put an input track. Okay, so far so good. Turn this down. It did not rebake still. So again, let's have a look. Baking node dependence. So this should happen when I change the send amount. Trigger baking node dependence for this 108 input. Which means we should get down to here. Oh, and for 123 as well, which was the one I'm actually interested in. Okay. This is empty, which makes sense. And then we should have two here. These are the two sends. 108 and 123. 123 is the one I'm really interested in, but let's have a look at 108. Dependence. Yeah, it has one dependent. So it's triggering the output of the receive. Okay. Then 123. 124 output. Okay, so now we've got two things to bake. And it's the output of the receives. And the output of the receive should be a dependency of the output of the macro. So it does that. And then that. These are the receives now, 109. $109? No dependence. One dependent. Should be like, this should be the macro, I think. No, it's the receive. Receive just uses the bait source output. Okay, I'm confused about what's going on then. So let's look at all of that again. But a bit faster. So this should be, again, 108.123. Send? What? Dependent of 108 is a send. 109. What's 108 then? Fucking hell, what's going on? 108 is a send. Macro is 119. Oh, the receive, yeah. Receive is 109. 108, 109. I'm just looking down here, by the way, in case you can't see what's going on for the IDs. 108, 109. So what's happening? 108 input. Dependent of 108 is a 109 output. Should be baked. Block type. Send! Hey, this is a bug. What's going on? Hold on. How did that happen? How did that happen? 808 108. It should be like this, surely. How was anything working? Doesn't that just break everything? What the... Oh, I guess it doesn't. I guess it would only break for some things. Right. That was a bug. Clearly. Yeah, that would break some of the things some of the time, rather than breaking all of the things all of the time. Okay. That probably was causing all kinds of problems, actually. Let's go like this. And then like this. Now I've broken even more stuff. No, suddenly it works. Oh, I hate this stuff where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Let's at least check if this is working now. No, it still doesn't fucking work. Okay. Alright. So that wasn't the issue. So let's keep looking. What do we have here now? 108, 123. Okay, same IDs as before. So 108. 109 should be baked. Returns false. Okay, this is the other issue. Yeah, this is what I was thinking. think they should actually return true. Because they still need to be receives, even though receives don't actually bake anymore, because I changed it. Previously, receives would bake themselves, but it doesn't actually make any sense because they would just bake the audio that a receiver output would bake would be identical to the should be identical to the send input. And so I thought that's stupid. They should just reuse the data. But it still needs to be involved in this like propagating dependencies through the graph. When one thing depends on another and then depends on another. So this should be returning true, I think, instead. But then it just doesn't bake it. Should be baked. True. In which case I just remove this. And then it still won't actually bake it, because when we get to the point of checking if it is baked already, I have another special case here. Okay. Send. Receive. Ah. It is baking. Why is it baking? Don't bake, please. Don't bake. It is baking. Why would you bake? It's trying to bake a receive. It shouldn't ever do that. This should always... So I guess I put another test here just to deal with the receive awkwardness. To check if it's already been baked. How does it get into the queue? It must be explicitly pushed into the queue from the other thread. Which makes sense. Yeah, previously it wasn't, because that function was returning false for receives always. But now it returns true, because basically this should be baked function is being used in two different contexts. One is here, where it's checking if it actually should start up the baking process to bake the audio. And the other place where it's being used is just when it's essentially propagating the dependency graph. I'm reusing that function because for 99% of cases, the logic is exactly the same. But for receives, it's not quite the same. So in that case, instead of complicating this loop, which is a bit, you know, the simpler this loop can be, the better, because it's a delicate thing. Let's instead complicate this logic instead by saying do I have some kind of get block type? Please type. Don't. Right, if working model checks cause at d id block type. If it's block type receive then continue. Or wait, what am I doing? Oh, I have to revert this change. Here. Okay. So if it's a receive, then so this was returning false before. Huh? No, I'm confused now. Oh, if it's okay, so now it's returning false. Okay, right. Do this. Okay, let's write this properly. Is receive. I need to so right, there we go. If is receive or should be baked. Okay. Oh my god. So now it will propagate the baking triggers correctly, I think, but it still won't actually bake receives when it actually gets into the baking thread. So I think that's what I want. That's why this this waveform now appears instantly as soon as this is finished baking, which it didn't previously. It would bake here and then it would bake this one immediately after, but now it just happens instantly because it's just reusing the buffer, which is much more sensible. And the stuff like the send amount, it doesn't need to rebake because that's just extra processing on top of the audio data. So the only thing that should actually bake now is the actual audio data. Things like envelopes. You can see there's no rebaking required. Okay. Let's try this again. Looks good so far. Let's turn this right down. Okay, it works. Alright. So I fixed a bunch of stuff there. Let's get rid of this again. Okay. Fixed a bunch of baking issues. Now, what was the other? There was another bug that I wanted to investigate. What was it? No, I think it was the send amount slider thing, which I already fixed. Okay. Maybe I'll stop that video there and then start another recording